Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, paragraphs 18 to 25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Act of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw of July 1986 and its regulations of January 2000, the Wellfleet Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Wednesday, January 19th, 2022 at 5 p.m., with a business meeting starting at 4 p.m. via remote meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. Board members will participate in this meeting virtually. And currently, we have Leon Shreves, Barbara Bresnell, Benjamin Fairbank, Marty Murphy, and Michael Fisher. So we have a healthy quorum. So, Gordon, you're first on the list. What were you going to talk to us about today?
I don't think I've ever seen you.
What?
Somebody needs to.
No, I'm here.
Okay, Gordon.
I didn't know if Hillary wanted to introduce this.
Well, Hillary's not here.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard her voice. All right.
I thought I heard her too, but she said she might be late for this meeting.
Okay. Okay. I've been in touch with Hillary about what I'm going to be speaking about, and I hopefully the commissioners have a short package of things that I sent regarding Nourishment on King Philip.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was very interesting.
Thank you. Okay, my goal here is to try and protect my relationship with the Conservation Commission, with the agent, with the client, with other environmental professionals, with the shellfishing community. And the reason I'm choosing my words and speaking a little slower than I normally do is I want to be careful and be respectful of all parties. Mr. Miller hired us shortly after he received a notice of intent for putting a small addition on his house. He's on above a coastal bank on King Philip, and he noticed that the nourishment calculations seemed to have been mistaken, and it really upset him, and it was double what normally it would be. And he hired us. He wanted to just do a totally new notice of intent. Now, give me a minute here. This is important, and I don't want to just run over things. For some reason, so we offered to contact the agent, contact the commission office, go through all the minutes. We weren't able to find any hard process facts as to why the nourishment calculation based on what all the abutters had was more than doubled. So be that as it may, these things happen, and the commission certainly is within its purview to make changes. We also, unknown perhaps to the commission, are involved in long-term 25-year nourishment projects in an adjacent town, and have done some nourishment in Wellfleet, but mainly in Truro on the Bayside. The Truro Bayside has a 20-mile fetch. Remembering some of Greg Berman's great presentation last week, which I was honored to attend, we're looking at what he referred to as limited littoral cells, that you can't use a broad paintbrush for the entire Bayside shore. That being said, the area that I'm referring to in Truro, where I am going to share my expertise, has a 20-mile fetch, and fetch is a critical factor in erosion. Erosion is only going to happen when the tide's coming in, only going to happen at high tide. It's got to be onshore. A surge is also helpful, and duration. So when all these things synergize, you will get some erosion. It's rare that they synergize, and you can have almost all the ingredients, but if you're missing one, it's going to be like dinner that nobody eats, that you're not going to have the erosion. So here's what we found in Truro. This is all firsthand information. We would normally put 1 yard of nourishment, sacrificial nourishment, per foot of shoreline. We found, and we would kind of spread it up a little bit, up about 15 feet. What we found is that a normal erosion event would take about 1/3 of a yard. So this is with a 20-mile fetch, you're going to lose 1/3 of a yard. And we've been able to reinforce this informal calculation based on firsthand observation and, as I said, 25 years of doing nourishment there. So I wasn't able to apply that, of course, to Mr. Miller's property. His property on a bad day barely has a 10-mile fetch, and it's from a side shore, not a direct onshore direction. The direct onshore is just across the harbor, which is very limited. So I had a few concerns, and I wanted to find a place where I could share them and direct them. Out here, we're all in the same boat. My thought is that more may not be better in this particular case. It's seen based on what Mr. Miller said all the neighbors were applying, was that this is more than double what the other properties have, which would create an anomaly. And as you may or may not know, an anomaly, especially a pile of sand, is going to attract erosion. It's going to generate more eroding activity because it's a anomaly as you go along the coast. So the other thing, and I apologize for not being able to speak faster, but I'm trying to put some thought into this. The other thing that concerned me was I informally, we all know people who are oyster fishermen, and of course they're all our best friends and we want oysters, so we try and protect those relationships. And I casually mentioned it, and I was shocked at the degree of concern that that my friend registered. He said, oysters are in cages. He said, if we get extra sand down there, the cages have to be moved. I said, well, how many cages are we talking about? He said, thousands. So I realized that the Wetlands Protection Act and your bylaws are really set up to protect not only beaches, but also shellfish. And a lot of shellfish have a vertical motility through the substrate. Oysters don't. And I don't know what the actual process is for making fairly aggressive change in the nourishment amounts, but I don't know that the shell fishermen have had a chance to share any of their thoughts on it. But also I realize that we live in a world of alternatives, and the best environmental decisions are based on choosing a preferred alternative. And maybe we just need a better discussion on the alternatives. This particular coastal bank is wooded. The revetment connects to other revetments, both port and starboard side. And this is going to be a annual nourishment. One thought that I had, and then I will end on this, is that would it not be possible to bring the amount down to where it's compatible, linkage to scale, with what the other neighbors are using, and simply monitor the site? I would volunteer to monitor a 1/4 mile of beach there with shooting elevations once a month and see what's happening and where it's going. To me, when I walk back to Cat using a satellite, it certainly appears that a lot of this sand is headed towards the shellfish cramps. So I think I think what we're asking the commission for, and this may not be the right venue for it because we're not on the official agenda, would simply be to take the 400 yards that the owner was instructed to use and to bring that back to the previous calculations that have been used for all the neighbors, which I think was about 157 yards. But simply to monitor it, and that nourishment could certainly be placed up along the revetment, because then it would reflect the natural process where because everything erodes from the bottom. If the bottom of that nourishment eroded, the upper part of the nourishment would fall down to replace it, which mimics the natural system. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and I want to be very respectful of the commission. I don't want to stick my beak in a locker where it doesn't belong, but it's been kind of awkward because we're all friends with Steve McKenna. And when the owner who used to work with Steve McKenna contacted him, he said, well, no one from Wellfleet contacted me, but these are all discretionary things using the full height of the bank as opposed to the height of the revetment. These are all discretionary based on towns. And my thought was that with the limited littoral cell that we have here, that we may not need such a boisterous amount of nourishment. Thank you.
What would be the criteria? I mean, this particular location was being replenished for the beach's benefit. Is that correct? Gordon?
We
mean, it
could
looks
say
like-
that, but in reality, it's to re-nourish the littoral cell. That when you put a revetment up, you're interrupting the process, and your mitigation requires you to
Right.
put in some limited amount of nourishment. The other projects that we have in Truro, there's no armored bank, that we just put it up to protect the coastal bank.
Right. So the criteria for the evaluation of the effectiveness of this reduced replenishment would be what? That the beach stays the same size, the same height? What do we go by?
The system that is in place seems to be in balance. There's X amount of energy is coming in to that area, that littoral cell. X amount of sand is being removed. X amount of sand is being drawn downdrift to the shellfish areas, and everybody seems to be working together okay. I'm concerned that I don't want to get involved in a position where we end up more than doubling that amount of sand without really looking at the consequences.
Does anybody know? Barbara, go ahead.
Well, Michael had his hand up first, so
Oh, I'm sorry,
you
Michael.
can see our hands raised, so I'll let Michael go
Oh, no,
first.
go
But I
ahead.
have,
Go ahead first, Barbara.
well, I have some comments and questions. I think Gordon answered one, and that was in comparing it to Truro, it's not really comparable because in Truro, you don't have coastal engineering structures. So I think that breaks down the comparison quite a bit. The other comment I want to make is I don't know why the increase was in the order of conditions. I think maybe the conservation agent is using a calculation now that was recommended to her by somebody to go to the complete height of the coastal bank. But I don't remember this particular hearing and what the order, why those orders of conditions were mandated. Greg Berman told us we can go either way. We can go to the height of the CES or the height of the bank, and he couldn't really recommend one or the other. I'll come back to that in a minute. The other thing is about the shell fishermen. I have a lot of friends who are shell fishermen and growers. And I spent a lot of time on a working group on how climate change is going to affect shell fishing. I'm afraid that not many people are paying attention to that. But part of that working group came up with recommendations for shell fishermen, realizing the fact that sea level is going to rise. And Greg Berman addressed this too last meeting at his comments. You know, if they get more sediment on the grants, they can raise their structures. That might not be good for Vibrio control, but it might be good in the long run if sea level rises. So they're not working deep water grants anymore. And the next comment I want to make is it's really hard to make any decisions if we don't really know where the sand's going from a scientific perspective. If someone says it's coming on my grant, how do I know it's coming from the Miller property and not from someplace else? So I'm just barraging you with the comments and questions I have, but I think it's a really complicated issues that we're as a commission are going to be dealing with a lot more. So I'll leave it to Michael now.
Mr. Chair, could I briefly respond?
Go ahead, Gordon.
Those are very intuitive questions. The sand stream is the component of all the nourishments, and it's all, and when you look at the satellite view over time, it's all moving towards the shellfish grants. The concerns that the shellfishermen had was that they're not in a position to, the word random comes to mind, but it's not the right one, to spontaneously move their racks because the oysters are kind of trapped there in the cages. And if something happened where they were getting overwhelmed, which they could also do just from surge wind and waves on occasion, that there are thousands of cages that are involved. So I wanted to be careful that these things were thought through in
Right,
terms of the height of the coastal bank.
Right.
That's
Right.
not an area that's experiencing a lot of erosion.
Go
I
ahead,
just wanted to follow up, and that is that most of this renourishment occurs in the winter. And most of the growers have to get their gear off the grants in the winter, and they don't put them back until the early spring. So I think there's a little bit of wiggle room here because most of the storms are coming in the winter that are causing these erosion events. I'm just throwing that into the mix too, but to further complicate how shell fishermen and growers have to respond to these events. And right now, most of them have to have their stuff off the grants for the winter period.
Michael, let's get back to you.
Yes, well, I largely agree with, in terms of the larger issues, both what Barbara's saying and also what Gordon's saying. In terms of the specifics, I am a little bit puzzled. If you look at the minutes of the last hearing, was February 2021. So I think that's the last time we heard it, if you can see the screen. After we get past the fact of the illegal cuttings, Mr. Miller said he was working with Easy Dozit, and they require 157 yards of nourishment. And that, as my records show, was the conditions that we put on this. So I'm really puzzled as to why the Mr. Miller would have gotten a different figure from that. So just in terms of the larger picture, all of the things that you're saying are important. And I think we are all in the same boat. We are trying to figure this out. And as Barbara said, Greg Berman said there are a number of completely legitimate ways of calculating, one of which is to the height of the bank. So I'm not sure why that one was used rather than the one that we've been using earlier.
Well, personally, I would, since we are, I mean, every site is different for this. It's in a different environment, different fetch, as far as the reach that's coming into it. I would welcome, well, first of all, I think Michael's right. I think we were talking about 158, so I don't know where the 400 came from. But I would really like to have a specific case where we have this contention between the erosion of the bank, the beach, and the shellfishman all in one area. And that's a problem, a multidimensional problem that this is one of the areas where it's really pretty critical. I would welcome the chance of having it monitored so we could really understand where a little better where the sand is coming from that is being deposited on the shellfishermen, and calculate how much are they seeing a rise and how much are we seeing of erosion up the coast from them. I mean, we need a way to get some kind of metric. And I'd hate to say that we'd have to do this everywhere, but it's certainly in little areas like this where it's a little convoluted and a little difficult. So personally, I don't think I have an issue with that. And we need to look into why that 400 yard value came in, because I remember discussing this and we talked about it quite a while, about the fact that we really don't know what the science actually is, the mechanics of all this. And we were concerned about the shellfishermen at the time. So yes, Gordon, go ahead.
Was there a commissioner ahead of me with questions?
I think we're all clear now. Go ahead.
Okay. I looked into this. I was not involved in the initial hearings. Another environmental professional was, and I want to be very respectful of their hard professional efforts. This is not intended to be pejorative of them or the commission or the agent or any party. I need that to be fully understood, because I've been very upset about just sticking my beak in here. But through my involvement with Nourishment elsewhere, I know with a 20-mile fetch, you can lose a third of a yard. And I just think going with 2 yards per foot, and that's when we would nourish 1 yard per foot, to go with 2 yards per foot is really overkill. This is a limited littoral cell. It's not that active. And I believe, in my opinion, when you go back on 10 years with the satellites, and it'd be longer, that you can track the movement of sand going down towards the shellfish beds. Now, normally the waves, to give waves credit, the waves sell tickets to the bus, that they would bust the sand out of the beach, but the tide drives the bus. The tide, with the near shore tide currents, are pulling and moving and pushing the sand. And the incoming tide is stronger than the outgoing tide. So oftentimes you will find a general movement of sand towards a larger harbor or towards a larger open area, which you have going right around that corner there. So that may help explain in terms of where this number came from. Again, Wellfleet's got one of the best conservation and health agents on Cape Cod. So this is not intended to be pejorative towards someone that I deeply respect. I believe from what fragmented information I was able to get, and I also found nothing in the minutes about where the change came from, is that CZM, Steve McKenna, had put out this other figure that you could go to the top of the bank, and for some reason that was used. And my concern was, we don't want that to be a model without putting it through its paces. And when this property owner knows Steve McKenna, we all know him, called him and said, no, nobody from Wellfleet contacted me, that these are just generic things that we came up with, and it's discretionary as to what the town wants to use. And I think probably in a very high velocity zone where you don't have a lot of protection, that you may want to look at something more bold. But in an area of limited movement, that it might not be that appropriate here, especially when you consider the other interests of the acts, like shellfishermen. But I did offer, and I will stand by that, to volunteer over 6 months to do monthly elevations along that section of beach going down to the shellfish grants, because I also am curious.
Well, I think that's a great place to start. I mean, I could see in the future that as we call for replenishment on an annual basis, that maybe we also need to include enough to cover periodic evaluations of the sand movement. I mean, we need to find out what's going on with these places, and not just it's not fire and forget. We have to see what the results are so that we can modify our evaluation. We'll look into this some more, and I'm sure Hillary will be getting back to you if there was a mistake or a change that's required. She'll know what method to do. But I'm frankly a little I don't know. I never see that 400 figure come up, so it's something that
I was pretty surprised. I think it was suggested to me that we apply for an amendment to our orders of conditions, and since this would be less impactful, we don't need to refile, but just request an amendment.
Right. I think that would be a good idea.
I thought I had done that, but maybe I didn't. The state doesn't have a form for it because they don't like it.
Curtis Graham has his hand up.
Curtis, go ahead.
Hi there. I'm a shellfisherman. I got grant 852. And my concerns is the wind, the northwest wind is what's pulling a lot of the sand out of there. And the fact that the sand is non-native sand. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and the sand is non-native sand, and it's I don't know, it's coming from a quarry or somewhere. And we've had some deaths out there. I'm not saying that's coming from the sand, but it's also a lot of the eelgrass and stuff that's been there in years past has been covered up because of that driving sand.
Okay, Curtis, if there's eelgrass there, you shouldn't be doing
No, dune grass.
agriculture
I
there.
mean the dune grass.
Oh, okay. Thank you, because my heart just leapt out of my
Yeah,
chest when you said that.
Not eelgrass, the dune grass, which kept the sand there,
Right. Well, the other thing is they're supposed to be using compatible sand. So if it's not, that's a problem that we have to address. We have to have some way of assessing that sand before it gets
of knowing
dumped.
where it's coming from. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Curtis.
We definitely have your best interests in mind. Is there any other discussion amongst this? I think our going forward position will be to work with Hillary to find out where that number came from, and then we will work on modifying it. So
then maybe what I'll do is I'll reapply for amending the conditions back to the original
right.
number. I'm not suggesting that Hillary or my friends Steve McKenna or the commission were in error in issuing those order of conditions, but simply that number, that magnitude might not be appropriate for that limited literal cell in that particular area.
Right. We can't vote on that now. It would have to be in a public hearing. So if you file
Right.
that amended order, then we could take it up at a future meeting. That would be the best thing to do. And in the interim, we'll find out how that calculation was made, because I don't remember.
Well,
I can
Hillary's
tell you
online.
exactly. I can tell you exactly how it was made.
Okay.
The applicant's consultant at the time had reached out to Steve McKenna for help in a beach nourishment calculation.
Okay.
And Steve McKenna said the current train of thought is to use the height of the bank times the length of the revetment
Okay.
and the erosion rate. And so that's what was proposed back to us. And that's how we left it until Gordon was brought in and the applicant felt that was too much sand. But I think in light of our recent discussion with Greg Berman and the Shellfish Department, I think we should hold off on making any decisions or determinations until we look at all the viable options for sediment in the system, and if there's a better place to put it, if there's multiple times of year where the application would be suitable, see what people are farming out front there, and continue to assess the situation before requiring it or agreeing to change it.
So what action can be taken by the
Well, I don't think I think no action should be taken at the moment, and we won't hold him to the 400 cubic yards at this moment until we can determine what's best for the system, because we don't want to continue to starve the system of sediment. We know that we need to build the beach up and allow for sand migration in the area. We know there's shellfish. We just need to find a way to make it work.
Right.
Thank
Okay,
you, Hillary.
this is
So-
Barbara.
Go
I
ahead, Barbara.
agree with Hillary. I just think that this is time sensitive because all the beach renourishment occurs now in the
Right.
winter because there's time of year restrictions. So what do we tell? I think if Gordon comes forward with an amended thing, we could act on it next meeting so that they can get their sand in before the time of year restrictions over.
Right.
Well,
Don't you
I
think?
think, yeah, and I just think, Barbara, we can have him nourish with the lesser amount this time until we determine what actually works out there. We're not gonna remove the
Right.
entire condition until we assess it, but for this year, for his
Right.
nourishment, he
Right.
Does that
can
have,
nourish with,
does that,
you know,
does
the,
that have, does that have to be a public hearing or?
no,
what?
I think we can just vote that here, by
In a
way of,
bit, in a business
discussion.
meeting, in a business meeting?
for sure. Yeah, because he had the condition on there.
Right.
And the neighbors are all nourishing about 150 cubic yards. So I just think we stay consistent with that until we can evaluate the whole system.
Okay,
Right.
that sounds good. Let's
Yeah, that
do it.
sounds good to me too.
Let's do
Uh,
it so Gordon doesn't have to come back. And we can just get it done during this time of year restriction before the piping plovers and the turtles come back. So that all this gets done before the end of March, which I think is the time of year restriction. Because there's only 2 months, to do this.
Right, right. Okay, it sounds like so what I'm hearing is we go with the 158 or
157.
157
Yep.
this year. You've got
Yep.
a waiver. Essentially, we're giving you a waiver this year. I think we would like to accept your offer, though, of monitoring that beach so that we can see better what's going on up there. And
I would send you a protocol for that.
okay, great. Okay, is there anything else that needs to be said during this? I think we have a go-forward plan that the owner will be pleased with, and we will get some more information out of this, which is easy to me.
Hillary, thank you so much for that other information. The only information I was given was a written document by the engineer at the time that he did the calculation. It came out to 157. So I guess everything else may have been verbal through Steve's office. So Steve's phone's probably ringing off the hook every day anyway. So, okay,
It's good. We'll figure it out.
thank you.
Do we
I
have
hope
to
everyone
vote?
knows that I appreciate them taking the time to work with us on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your politeness and discretion, Gordon, and it's very good ideas. And your offer for monitoring that is very useful.
I'm going to see if I can get out of here.
Adios. Okay, Dennis health regulations. Who?
So
let's
that,
look at that.
Wait,
that was a regulation that the town of Dennis has enacted through their Board of Health. I'm gonna request that we put it on a future agenda after our Board of Health has a look at it and weighs in on it. So I think if we could hear from Andy and Kathleen, they're here to talk about their 2 triathlons that are upcoming that they're seeking permission for. So if we could
Okay.
jump to them.
All right. Kathleen, would you like to take it away?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Thank you, Hillary. And thank you, Leon. So we have the Wellfleet Sprint Triathlon and the SOS Triathlon, which Wellfleet has been going on since 2011. That is at the Long Pond parking, well, the Long Pond grassy area, the park there. It's just the town beach. That's one I think that is, we've not even spoken to you all before because that's usually the town just handles that with Sue, and that one's been fine. But I think the SOS we've talked to you about over a number of years, and Andy can talk to you about specifics. But this year we'd like to essentially do what we did last year. It seemed to work well with the exception of the mosquitoes. We're hoping they don't come back. But otherwise, I think that we were able to, to keep, the environment safe, the athletes safe. We didn't hear any complaints from any neighbors or anything like that. But Andy can certainly talk to you about more specifics, as far as which, passageways and so forth.
Okay. Andy, you want to speak?
Sure. Yes, on the Wellfleet Sprint Triathlon, there is a swim. It's a triangular swim. It starts at Long Pond, the main public beach. It ends there. We do make the first leg of that swim. We position it in such a way that it misses that pipewort or water lilies. You might recall if you frequent that pond over on the right side. So we stay clear of that, and the rest of it's pretty deep water. That's early in the morning and over with fairly quickly. The other event is one where it starts at Nail Beach with a bike ride. They head out to Provincetown and back. We have the cooperation of the National Seashore, Truro, Provincetown, Wellfleet, of course. It ends over on Collins Road, where the athletes run along some of the established footpaths. They come down from Truro on, they're on Black Pond for a little bit, Slough, and then Black Pond, and then they come down Schoolhouse Hill. They come to the sluice, but not to the sluice itself, but the actual end of the path there next to the Gull Cottage Inn there, where they enter the water. There's usually a ranger that's stationed there just to make sure everything's going well, a seashore ranger. They swim over to the Gull Pond parking lot. They come out right on that public beach. They head down over toward Gross. They go down Sapaconowich, which takes them down to Long Pond. They don't stop at Long Pond. They keep going all the way down to Gull. Now, what we've done the last two of these events is we've just had a triangular swim and Gull. We did ask at one point, we made arrangements with a homeowner there on Great Pond. We made arrangements with the homeowner on Great Pond on the other side, that if we started at the bottom of the stairs, we could swim to her property, which is waterfront, and then get onto the way, I think it's 625 there, to head up toward Long Pond Road. The Conservation Commission was a little nervous about that a couple of years ago. And as you know, the water levels have fluctuated quite a bit over the years in there. And I'm not sure what's more problematic, when it's high or when it's low, but I leave that to you. So we're happy to do it as a triangular swim again, which means they come back up the stairs and they head off toward Long Pond, but they don't go to the beach that everybody knows and loves. They go to that beach that the town has jurisdiction over, but it's very quietly known, on the east side of Long Pond. And there they swim the Long Pond and they come out at the public beach. And then they run over to the elementary school where the finish line is. And that's it in a nutshell.
Wow.
Oh, I just think that the beach you referred to on Long Pond, that's not another town landing, that's seashore.
Yes,
On the
well,
east side?
You're right. I thought the town maybe had some jurisdiction over it, but
No, it's
the seashore
seashore.
does approve our event. I mean, that's part of the process. We have to
Yeah,
get there.
that's not town, I'm pretty sure. The seashore's put out some picnic tables there and
Yeah.
Not
no
the pocket,
parking.
we're talking about the pocket park.
Yeah, I think
With the
so.
gate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pocket
Yeah,
park.
yeah,
Yep, that's
yeah.
seashore.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
so they haven't had any issue with that. Rich usually has a key. Somebody is able to open the gate for us.
Okay. Any other concerns from the commission?
I didn't have any concerns. I just wanted them to come and talk to you because I'm sure they'll come back to talk about the bigger race, but if we could just kill two birds with one stone right now, I think we're good here.
I think that the race has been done very responsibly. I'm often swimming when they're swimming too. And I know some of the the people who participate. They've cleaned up the area. I think it hasn't been too impactful because it's a small race and I would like to keep it small. So I don't know what the limit is of what you have for a limit of people. But that would be important to me. I wouldn't want it to be 2,000 people. So that's one concern, is how many participants. And just the water levels might be high this year because they're high right now. So we've had a lot of rain.
We were not planning to ask for any more participants in the one that affects 3 ponds. We were going to keep that at 150 maximum.
Okay.
Kathleen, on the Long Pond Triathlon, what's the number?
That's a good question. I think we asked for a little bit more this year, but I'd need to pull up the permit to speak fairly intelligently about it. That's usually small too. It's under 200 people, and it's I could find the exact number in just a second. But it's just in that one area. They're out of there pretty quickly. They literally just swim the pond and then they're on roads the rest of the time. So far that hasn't been an issue. We clean up the park, we move all of the benches so the athletes can be in there, and then we put all those benches back, which is no small feat, by the way. But we're happy to do it.
They start on the sand. They actually end on that wood reinforced path, I guess we'd call it
Right, that was a handicap path, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
I don't want to see these numbers escalating. That's my concern, because this is such a fragile area. And there are other users of the pond. As I said, I'm sometimes swimming there and I have these people splashing by me. So I want to just keep this, in the current numbers, because I think it's working right now. And I think if it gets a little more popular, I think we may have to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the currently, sorry, it's 125 is what our permit states. The race has always been small. We don't plan on it being larger. It's actually nice for us because it sells out, because we keep it so small. So people are like, oh, I've got to do that Wellfleet sprint, which is great. We're happy to have people enthusiastic about it. But the idea that one of the great things about this race is that it is small. So there's not a lot of athletes out there, which is great for, for the environment, but, also great for, for the athletes, that they've got this nice, neat kind of cool, Wellfleet funky race, and, in a beautiful spot. So yeah, our intent is not to, it's not.
But didn't you just say that you asked for more participants for this year? You asked for an increase?
125 is what we're asking for.
From what, 100?
So it's, right, we were kind of around that before with 100. So, normally we don't get everybody that registers, doesn't show up. But it's always nice to, to have the number out there.
That's for the Wellfleet race.
Right.
That's a fundraiser for 2 organizations, WOMR Public Radio and the Outer Cape Health Services. And what we're finding is with 100 people, there's not a lot of money left over after you pay the police, you pay the fire, et cetera. For those charities. So if we can bump it up, and I think that's what we wanted to ask the Board of Select Board for, is we can bump it up to 125. That will
Can you
help
just
out a little
charge the participants more, or have them have sponsors instead to get more money and have less impact on the resource? That's my suggestion.
Yeah, WOMR does actually use their development director to try to get as many sponsors as we can for the event. It is sand to sand. One of the things we did to try to reduce the impact for the town as well, because this is a town that easily has a 4-month summer at least, is we've pushed the event so that the The first event, the one using the 3 ponds, will be held, I believe it's June 4th. And the second event will be held on September 25th. So we've gone to the outer reaches of where that water is warm enough to swim in. We're hoping that that will have less of an impact on the community.
Okay, you haven't seen the ladies' exercise classes there. There are 30 people in the water sometimes just exercising.
Right. Is that Joan Nagel? Does Joan do the,
I don't know who she is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's John
okay.
and my wife.
And Leon's wife, okay. And a bunch of us who are swimmers through the fall, so.
Mhm.
Anyway, I want to keep it small. I don't want it to start escalating. It's going from 100 to 125. Next year is going to be 150, maybe 200.
No, we won't. I promise you. We did, for us, I mean, we don't have the space and, with this kind of race, there's a transition area, right? Where they go from swimming to biking to running and they have their stuff in one spot. We have limited space there in the, in the park. So, so it will never get to be a large event. Andy and I put on events in Falmouth and Hyannis that have 800 participants. We would never, ever consider, anything even anywhere close to that for Wellfleet. That's just not the, not the way we would, that we would do it for Wellfleet. We love Wellfleet. So.
Okay, any other exchange of ideas or comments? Thank you for the presentation. It sounds like a great activity. I'm sure that you'll continue the way that you've been very good about making minimal impact on the environment.
Thank you. That's important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank
Does
you.
does this require a vote or approval or anything?
No, I just wanted you to hear the information.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We got a lot of things here on the, Hillary, you want to help me guide our way through? We got
Yeah,
a
I
whole
think
list
the
of
next
things
thing we
here.
should tackle would be the open space warrant articles. And I truthfully have to find the email.
Well, Hillary, I've got them up if you want to.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Because I think
so-
that's really the only other thing. Environmentally sensitive areas, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. We have no jurisdictional opinions, and we're going to hold on any regulation discussion. So really, it's just the open space warrant.
All right, and then we need to approve the minutes from last meeting. But that
Yeah.
doesn't take long.
So,
Okay,
so this is land that the town owns that's being transferred to conservation with the Conservation Commission. And it's going to be a warrant article and we have to vote on it.
Well,
So
I haven't been out there, but why shouldn't we? We should.
Well, that's one of them, and this is the other one of them. This one.
Oh, by Freshbrook. Okay. Yeah, we should protect those. They're in watersheds.
Yep.
Yep. They're near Wellfleet Conservation Trust areas. Yeah. So I move that we approve the open space warrant articles to, I don't know what we do, to take possession of the town, the Conservation Commission takes responsibility or whatever it is.
It goes under the care, control, and custody of the Conservation Commission.
Commission for those particular lots that we just looked at.
what's the ramifications of the responsibility? I mean,
We go out, we inspect them, we make sure there's no encroachments, we manage them.
Make
okay.
sure people aren't cutting trees on them, which they have done in the past. That
It's
kind
more
of thing.
difficult to develop them for any municipal use if they're under the care, control, and custody of the Conservation Commission as well.
And a lot of them are wetlands, which can't be developed anyway. So, yes.
Okay, I'll second that. Shall we have a vote so that we can, this will appear on the warrant, right?
Yeah.
All right, Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Marty, how do you vote?
Yes.
Barbara
Yes.
and Michael?
Yes, but I have to make the disclosure of apparent conflict of interest, but I can
Okay.
overcome that and vote yes.
Okay.
All right. I don't think that'll be a problem. If you voted no, that might have been a different problem. Okay, so there's your vote.
Did you vote, Leon?
I did. I was second.
Okay.
I vote yes.
So 5-0.
Yeah, I know I usually keep myself at the end, but I'm just going the way I've got you organized on the screen.
Perfect.
So there's no jurisdictional opinion?
No jurisdictional opinions.
Okay, and then so we just have meeting minutes, which I think look great.
Yes, now, one thing on the meeting minutes, neither Chris nor I could remember exactly how many days automatic extension due to the pandemic was given to orders of condition. We remembered 440, but we should
Yeah.
make sure the minutes are correct. Is that the right number?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary feat of memory there. Okay, so I move that we approve these minutes from the January 4th meeting, 3rd? What would it be?
Fifth.
Today,
Fifth.
19th, so it'd be the 5th. So I second that. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leon, yes. Marty,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Michael.
Yes.
Okay, is that it for the meeting, Hillary?
I have one question,
Okay.
and
I'm
that is,
sorry.
why are we looking at the dentist health regulations? I had them on my laptop and I said, what is this? This looks like Board of Health stuff, and I deleted them. And then I
Yes, it
saw
was
them.
one, it
and
was
then I-
one regulation that Matt Farrell wanted you to look at, that was regarding upgrading to IA systems. And that was the only part you were looking at.
Okay, could that sort of be highlighted when our discussion comes up? Because I was thinking, I deleted it twice. And then
Yes.
I saw it on agenda today and I had to find it again and read it
Yes,
again.
yes. Yeah, no. It, by no means should you be looking at the whole set of
Well,
regulations.
I did, Hillary. I studied it.
I'm
very
sorry,
carefully.
Barbara, but pass
TLDR.
along anything good to Nick.
I will. Okay, yeah, if you can highlight what we're supposed
Yes,
to look at.
Yes,
on
when we're
that.
ready for
Yeah.
the discussion, for sure.
Okay,
Right.
then we'll be ready for a discussion.
Yes.
Okay, I move that we take a break until 5 o'clock.
Okay, we have 8 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Good,
Oh, that's enough for.
All right.
Be done.
for a break. Okay.
Do I
very
have a
good.
second for that?
Second, Michael.
Okay, Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leon, yes. Marty,
Yes.
Barbara? I guess that's a yes. Michael?
Yes, yes.
She bailed before she said you wanted to bail.
I was quick on the trigger here.
Okay, I'll see you at 5 o'clock in a few minutes.
Okay.
Right, I can use the phone to call Sue and tell her.
How's it going, Marty? How's things?
I'm
down
doing
in
fine,
Florida?
man. How about yourself?
Okay, I'm still
Head
here.
back to Wellfleet on Sunday, next Sunday,
Oh,
the 30th.
well, it's just in time for some really cold weather.
Yes.
Good timing. Okay, I think that we can begin now. We have a quorum. All right, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, paragraphs 18 to 25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and to the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw of July 1986 and its regulation of January 2000, the Wellfleet Conservation Commission will hold hearings on Wednesday, January 19th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's orders imposing severe limits on the number of people that may gather in one place, No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. Board members will participate in this meeting remotely. And currently on the commission, we have Ben Farabank, Leon Shreves, Marty Murphy, Barbara Brennesel, and Michael Fisher. So we have a quorum. Okay, I take it that the first one has been canceled, 55 Main. That was last week or last.
Yes, that was a clerical error. That's not
Okay.
real.
Yeah, okay, good. So the town of Wellfleet Housing Authority, is there someone to speak to that? Is there anybody representing the town of Wellfleet Housing Authority?
I'm sorry, through the chair,
Okay.
this is John O'Reilly.
Hello?
And what we're asking for is what amounts to an extension, a 2-year extension on an order of conditions that was set to expire on December 30th of 2021.
Okay, you're aware that you have a 440-day extension automatically due to the COVID?
I believe, and Ted Malone, I think, is on this call as well. I believe the 31st deadline, or the 30th deadline, excuse me, December 30th, includes that 400-day, some odd day extension. Yes.
Okay. So
Reason for the extension?
The plan was just recently revised due to a settlement through the appeal, through an abutter appeal or butters appeal. It was presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals as for a plan update within the last 45 days. And it was realized that this order was about to expire, and we need to come back to this group to review the revised plans with you. And we would like to do that under an amended order as opposed to a whole new filing.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
It was also tied up in litigation for a while.
Yes, yes, uh-huh.
Right. I take it this is for the low-cost housing, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, right. All right. So we want to make a motion?
I will, Barbara will move to grant a 2-year extension to the town of Wellfleet Housing Authority for 120 Payne Hollow Road.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leon votes yes. Marty?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes,
And Michael?
Yes.
All right, so that's taken care of. Is there something that we have to sign for that?
yes, it's a extension permit for order of conditions. Hillary, is that
Yes,
Form 7?
Correct.
Form 7.
Okie dokie. Good luck with that, John.
Thank you. It's been a long saga.
Yeah.
Yes, we're quite
Yes, it
aware.
has.
Okay, the next hearing is for Taylor
Thank you.
Management. 165 3rd Street, map 40, parcels 104. It's an RDA to install 2 sheds. And that's been continued from last meeting. Is there someone to speak to that?
There is. Drew is here.
Drew? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can now.
All right, great, thanks.
So would you like to refresh us on this, please?
Yeah,
far
I
as-
can. I'll give you a little background. So we're transitioning from roughly a 1,800 square foot house with garage, extra storage space, attic space, to virtually a 768 square foot house with, let me see, we have an 18-inch by 24-inch closet in the master bedroom and the same in the guest bedroom. So needless to say, with everything that encompasses this transition, we are in dire needs of some storage space, or I can go into detail if you want how the sheds will be broken down, but as most of you know, I'm sure most of you either have attics, garages, or storage rooms, or at least closets in your home. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm in front of the commission.
I'm still recovering from my transition.
Oh, always fun.
I'm not there yet.
I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not fun.
Michael, do you have, yes, Michael, I see your hand up, please.
Yes. So I have some questions, if I may.
Please do.
First of all, you don't specify, first of all, this is the third shed that isn't there already one shed there?
There's one shed, correct?
So this is the third shed in the 50 to 100-foot buffer. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have a request in for 2 sheds.
Yes, in others, but that would make a total of 3 within that 50 to 100-foot buffer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And do you say anything about the foundations for these sheds? Are you using diamond piers? Are you using helical coil? What are you using?
We would use, I don't know if you have the record from the previous shed, but they are hurricane anchored. They are on the, I forget the cement pilings. So they would be obviously same parameters as the first shed.
Well, you know that diamond piers would do a lot less damage.
Diamond, I'm not opposed to diamond piers. I mean, whatever's, we're just looking to, have the shed space and whatever conservation feels is necessary. It is fairly protected where the proposed sheds are going to go. So as far as erosion or weather being a factor, there's not much of a factor there. It's a very protected area as far as from the elements.
No, I quite understand that. And the other question, you're going to be covering a certain amount of the buffer zone. Do you have any mitigation proposed for that?
I'll give my response and I'll defer it to Hillary, or if you want to come out for a site visit, I'm more than welcome.
We actually have been out there.
We were there.
Okay. All right. So tell me what you've seen that, what are your thoughts?
There are some brush piles there that looks like they were left from the last shed project, for one thing.
When were you there last?
Cut 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a good portion of that has been removed down to the DPW.
All right, and you're also adding like 240 square feet in the buffer zone. So we don't have on our plan like the total lot coverage of all your disturbed areas in the buffer zone, which would include the house and the driveway and the sheds and the walkways. And I don't know if we can, I don't think we could include the revetment, but we can't. No, Hillary's nodding no, but we'd like to see how much of the lot is actually being covered, because it's all within the 100, as far as I can tell, although the sheds are between the 50 and 100. Is that right, Hillary? It's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the 2 new sheds are, yes.
All right. And there are issues about sheds, like people have bedrooms in them, they have guests in them. So the shed issue, I appreciate you need storage, but what are you using the first shed for if it's not storage?
Like I said, I'm more than happy to bring you down to open it up. Right now, it is jam-packed, and we have so much off-site storage now for bicycles, surfing equipment. Our clothing has to be, I mean, it's stuffed to the gills, and it's just cleaning supplies, some furniture. That's basically, and like I said, you're all invited to come down and open up the shed to you.
If I may, there's also trees that have been trimmed within the 50 to 100-foot buffer, like this one here. Isn't that your property with, and again, with all of this other stuff?
Well, I know when Tesla was out to do the roof, they did some trimming, so I don't know, as far as their permit, what was entailed in that.
Well, there's nothing in the record that anyone has a permit to do any sort of trimming of
Right.
trees
Yep.
within the 150. Again, if you are going to cut down trees, you need permission and you need to replace trees with the same number of trees or more trees than you cut down. So just keep in mind that in the future, there are rules about what you can do and what you can't do. Even though it's your land, you can't do any sort of damage to the environment without getting permission. That's one of the joys of having such a lovely house.
No, no, thank you. And that specific tree, I don't know, a couple slides back there under by that tree right there, that died. So that was a dead tree.
Right, but you cut it down.
Well, I removed the dead part of it and you can see what's left.
Right,
Yeah.
so we would like it replaced, and similarly, this tree doesn't seem to have been, it's still barely alive, but this is all things, when you're a homeowner within the buffer zone, you've got to get permission for any sort of storage or damage to trees. And you then have to mitigate by planting. They can be native species, they can be trees that are off a list of native species, but it's really our legal responsibility to protect the environment for things like things like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, understood. And that other tree, I think on one of the slides there, I believe that's not even a tree. I think that's one of those very hardy weeds.
All right, I'm not sure that I'm not an arborist, but
Yeah, no,
please.
that's an invasive weed, actually.
But it's still a good couple of inches diameter, woody structure that's taking carbon up and providing habitat.
Are you saying this is a weed?
I'm not sure if I really can't tell by the image there.
I mean, like,
I mean, these are trees.
tree.
That was a dead tree. Yeah, I'm sorry. The one that you went back to, that tree died.
Yeah, okay. I'm just suggesting that you really have to be aware. I don't know if you've read the environmental protection regulations, but that might be some good bedtime reading for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody have any other questions or statements? Are there any abutters that have?
It's Barbara again. I just want
Go ahead,
the
Barbara.
total square footage of disturbance on this particular property to be filed with the deed. Because if two more sheds are going to be here, that's more disturbance to the property. That's 240 square foot more disturbance to the property than already exists.
Right, so the sheds and those figures should show up on the site plan that's recorded. Is that correct, Hillary?
Yeah, so he could resubmit the site plan with that information on it sometime in the next week, and then we can go ahead and process his paperwork.
Right, so once again, the disturbed area is your house, walkways,
Driveways,
sheds, and decks or
right,
pallets might have,
right.
outside. Anything that's not just the way it was 100
Right.
years.
I don't think there's any like lawn areas or anything like that here, but there is some decking and other stuff.
Yeah, and the place for the two proposed sheds, and you obviously did a walkthrough over there. You could see the majority of it is either poison ivy or the other kind of invasive weed. That's what's in that area where those sheds would go. And the reason I placed those sheds there was basically out of consideration to the neighbors, so none of their views would be affected. Because I thought, the best place for me to actually have a shed would be over, there's a little cut in the driveway, but out of consideration and courtesy to the neighbors, I thought where I placed them in the plan that you have would be unobtrusive to all of our neighbors.
Well, that's very considerate of you. There again, we provide the same kind of consideration for the environment. That's our job.
Yeah,
So-
no, so do I. I'm an environmentalist, believe it or not.
Yeah, good. Somebody would like to make a motion? I'll move. I move that we approve the Taylor Management warrant of 165 3rd Street, map 40, parcel 104, with the condition that the site plan is updated with the location of the sheds and the total square footage put down on the site plan as far as disturbed area within the buffer zone.
It's a -3 if we're gonna do this, right, Hillary?
Yep. The other thing you want to put in is no sonotube construction. You want diamond pier construction.
Mhm.
And
Right.
did you want any replanting done for the trees that were trimmed and cut?
Yes.
Uh,
I think there's area on the property where trees could be put in. Maybe things like, I'm not an arborist, Ben can help me here, but like cedars or something like that. And they would actually be good habitat for birds and other things. So I think there should be some mitigation for the trees that were cut down.
2 cedar trees or 3?
How many were cut? How many were?
Looked like
Yeah, there were no trees cut. No trees have been cut on the property ever.
What about that one where we saw the top cut off?
Well, and this is, I'll refer back to you as a conservationist, the tree was dead.
No, not the one in the front, the one in the back behind your sheds,
No, that's still alive.
but it has no top.
As I
Right.
said, I mean,
Drew,
When
let's make it clear to you, Drew, that the trees on your property, if anything goes wrong with them, or if they start leaning against your house, you still need to come to us.
Yep.
to Get permission, okay?
how about
If
3
it's
cedar
none of
trees?
those trees is it's out of the lane. We weren't informed about. Because what we would have done then is said, okay, you're gonna cut down 2 trees, or you're gonna really top this tree. We need a couple of replacement trees for it. And that gives you the opportunity to decide where you want to plant them, so it doesn't interfere with your view or whatever.
How about 3?
Sounds
I'm
good.
good.
All
I'm
right.
good with that.
All right, 3. So once again, I move that we accept this with the need for the site plan to have the disturbed area within the buffer zone, to use diamond piers instead of sonotubes, and plant 3 cedar trees.
Okay.
Good.
I will second it. I think it's really borderline between an NOI and RDA, but I'll go with the RDA if the applicant's willing to do the trees.
so it's, and I understand 3 trees is what we're looking for.
3 cedar trees.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, not to obstruct your view, but just to provide some habitat and carbon for all the stuff missing.
3 cedar trees. And then as far as the current site plan that you have, and then just notated, if I understand correctly, the total disturbed square footage area. And do you already have that on record with this proposed site plan that you have?
We don't. You have to calculate it for us.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then diamond pier construction would.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, that's been seconded. Benjamin, how do you vote? I vote yes. Marty, how do you feel about it?
Yes.
Barbara
Yes, okay.
and Michael?
Yes,
Okay, you're good to go.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And this
Uh,
doesn't need a supervisor because it's an RDA, so.
Correct.
Right.
And that's a 5, is that right, or a 2?
-3.
3.
no, form.
No,
Form.
Oh, form, it's form 2.
Form 2. Form -3, okay.
Form.
Well, that's the determination.
Okay, the next one is Kleeman, 170 Bayberry Lane, map 41, parcel 121, an NOI to construct a new dwelling. We made a site visit this morning. Is there somebody to represent this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, John O'Reilly again,
Okay,
representing Jan Kleeman, and I see Jan on the call as well.
Hello, Jan.
So you were able to visit the site with it?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's kind of I found it rather daunting that you're going to try to build in that, around that ravine. One thing that we need is, not that that's any problem, but it's certainly not a level building site. One thing that I was concerned about was that the trees that you talk about clearing for solar weren't marked, and I wanted to hear you talk about that a little bit, about what the extent of it was. We're going to have to see those marked before we can really make a decision about this, because there's a lot of trees there, and you're right on the, you're right. That's in the 50-foot filter strip. So,
well, let me just do a brief introduction of the project, and then we can get right into the questions. So Ms. Kleeman has been looking for some time for her little slice of heaven, and she has found it at the corner of Bayberry Lane. She is looking to build a 1,400 square foot 3-bedroom home. The home will be partially.
Don, I think it's bigger than 1,400 square foot. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I believe it's bigger than 1,400 square feet. Sorry.
Including the deck, right?
No.
All right.
The footprint. I'm sorry. The plans. The footprint of the building. The building is 2 floors. The footprint of the building, I believe, is 1,400 square feet.
Right. Right.
All right. That's where he got the number.
Right.
That's where he
It's
got the
20
number.
feet wide, 70 feet long.
Okay.
So that is the footprint of the building. And that building is supported by both piles, which will have footers, as well as a typical foundation that you see under a lot of homes for storage and utilities. Attached to that house is a deck that runs on the southern side of the house. And what we've done is we've positioned the house through Jan working with her architect so as to gain as much southern exposure as possible. If you've looked at the plans, there's some roof projections, and you can see that the southern side of the gable is set up for ideal solar. And the idea here with Jan is to provide enough solar to have the house self-sustain. So what we've done is we've positioned the house within a previously approved limit of work line, and orientated it south per the architect's direction. We have graded the site very similar to the grades that are out there. There's no significant grade changes, with the exception of the driveway as it comes in off the road, which is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. There is a stone wall that on the right side of the driveway as you come in off Bayberry Lane that elevates the ground so we can have a level gravel parking area. The septic system is designed to be for the 3 bedrooms. It is a septic system that includes IA technology. This was actually requested by Ms. Kleeman, as she would like to provide as much of protection to the environment as her house can. And this is a great way to do that with wastewater treatment. So Ms. Kleeman is in the process of trying to purchase this property. We are in a somewhat of a time crunch, and one of the things that we do not have tonight with you that you typically see with a house filing is a replanting plan or a restoration plan of some sort. And I just wanted to point that out, that I'm cognitive of that. I think my narrative outlines that, if able, we would provide a landscape plan once it's produced by a restoration specialist. All the roof front, we have our typical conservation notes on the plan. With regards to the limit of work, it's a 9-inch diameter straw wattle staked in place. Roof runoff will be handled by either stone drip lines, stone drip trenches, or dry wells. Driveway will be pervious, be gravel or shell. And I think that's it, and should get the, oh, well, let me talk about the trees. If you look at the plan, you'll see a proposed limit of ground disturbance for the proposed grading. It runs in an east-west direction. That is the limit of the ground disturbance on the site in a southerly direction. And the triangle shape as it works its way to the well, the existing well, that's the area that we'd be looking for selective tree removal for solar capacity. So that's what I meant about the solar. And we don't know what number of trees are. I guess we could try to dig that number up. We just didn't have time to fully vet that issue prior to filing. And I guess I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Barbara.
Let me just start with the tree removal for solar. I think that solar is great. I applaud you for wanting to install solar, but solar is going to take care of some of the carbon that will come from the tree loss, but the trees still stabilize the bank and the area. So I'm really interested in how many trees are going to come down and some kind of mitigation for those particular trees, because to build the house, there's going to be a lot of trees taken down anyway. It's a very wooded lot. So there's going to be a ton of carbon coming out of that area to build this house. So I'm glad you're going to put solar in, but I want to see some kind of mitigation for some of the carbon that's going to be taken out for the trees that are going to shade your solar system. That's my comment. I think this is a much better plan than the one that the former Conservation Commission approved a bunch of years ago, because the footprint's smaller. I think the effect on the environment is going to be less. So I think it's very doable. I'd still like to see the square footage of disturbance in the 100-foot buffer zone. That's going to result from this project. I'll stop there and let one other thing. If we had one other conservation commissioner here who's not here today, he would advocate for an advanced IA system in this area, which is just so.
We are proposing it.
You're doing that.
The project
I thought you were
proposed-
doing
Title V.
no, I thought you were doing I forget what the
They're
name of this.
proposing the microfast, but I think what John Kumbler would ask for would be the enhanced innovative alternative.
Enhanced IA, and that's what I would ask for too in this particular spot, because to go
I
from
don't think
that to
I don't think that's a problem at all, Barbara.
to go from that to enhanced won't be a lot if you're installing it now. To retrofit it, it would be more. And also the town has some money to sort of compensate for these kinds of projects. So
Yeah,
I would propose the advanced IA.
Yes.
And I'm good with this as long as I know about the trees for solar and we have some kind of mitigation going there.
Right. So, Jan, from your time critical, because you want to close on this property, and you want to know ahead of time, I think that generally we're very positive about your project. We just need to know about the trees that are going to be removed. And I've got solar on my house, and it's a 2-story house, so it's probably about the same height as yours is going to be. And there's some pretty big trees to the south of me, but they still clear. you know, when it really counts in the summer, when you really get some solar,
Right.
the sun's a little higher. So that's something to consider.
Absolutely.
So we'll need before we can actually approve it, we have to have some of the details about The trees, I guess we're okay on the foundation and everything. We do want to know what the this area of disturbance would be as far as what your house is sitting on, driveway, etc.
The walls, and also these walls, the retaining
Yes.
walls,
Retaining
Right.
walls, yep.
walkways.
So this is normal stuff, but we can't really.
Yeah,
approve
I have to
on the
apologize.
blind here.
The plan and the application was put in kind of rush, and I've made notes and I understand.
Yeah, there's not much to do to get this approved.
Right.
We're all
You-
looking
You're in good shape.
favorably on it, I think. We were out there today, but it just needs a little more detail for us.
That's gonna be an awesome place to have a house.
Mhm.
But I,
Go ahead.
we
Hillary.
have a letter and I'm not sure it belongs to this property. But they requested that it be read tonight.
Okay,
And dear members of the Conservation Commission, I am writing the letter concerning the proposed development of the property on Ring Road in South Wellfleet. Now,
This
Ring
is-
Road is a project we've looked at a number of
right.
times.
That's on off Lieutenant Island Road further west.
Okay, so hear me out. It
Okay.
goes on to then say, South Wellfleet set for a meeting on 1/19/21. This letter concerns the impact of developing the property on the fragile and valuable salt marsh ecosystem directly adjacent to it. Salt marshes in general are incredible, valuable ecosystems, providing not only filtering of toxins and protection from the ocean, but also have the highest productivity of any ecosystem on Cape Cod. This allows for essential feeding opportunities for animals, from fish to birds to mammals. Many of our local commercial fisheries are directly dependent on this ecosystem, either as a nursery or source of food for commercial fish. Migrating shorebirds travel 500 miles from the Arctic tundra to stop in the salt marsh for over a month to rest and refuel before continuing the journey to South America. The Fresh Brook Salt Marsh that runs along Bayberry Lane is an especially valuable salt marsh. The fresh flow of clean water from the surrounding area leads to an explosion of life and make for a preferred foraging site for a number of avian species: greater yellowlegs, whimbrel, black-bellied plover, black duck, snow, and great egret, to name a few. Further, this area is perhaps even more important as a roosting site, with hundreds of shorebirds resting here daily during migration. If disturbed, these birds are forced to fly and expend valuable energy and expose themselves to predators, or may abandon the area altogether and have to roost in a more dangerous area located further from good foraging areas. Additional development near the salt marsh will directly impact the quality of the ecosystem and decrease its value to the local economy and wildlife. Any development adjacent to the salt marsh should be placed far back as possible, limit the impact on wildlife using the marsh. With the rising sea levels and increasing coastal flooding due to climate change, building any new structure near a tidal area need to be more closely considered as to whether it is for short-term gain or actual investment in the future community. Sincerely, James Junda, Director of the Monomoy Bird Observatory. So I'm not sure if this is related to this project or the Ring Road project. So
Or either project. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Hillary.
okay, I just,
Well, what that just articulated is exactly what we're here for, is to make sure that the environment is protected. And I think that through the IA sewage treatment and the way that you've nestled this thing in there, I don't see, unless you're going to be shooting shotguns off your deck towards the
And-
birds, I don't think.
No,
you're gonna
and
have a problem.
the area is already developed. So
Yeah.
it's not like there's nothing else out there. It's not like a pristine environment. There are houses,
Yeah.
Neighboring houses there.
Yeah, right across the street.
So I appreciate what he's saying, but I think that the plan calls for the least impact on the environment in a lot that's allowable for building. I mean, it's
Yeah,
permittable for building. So we legally, we're just trying to protect the environment, but legally they can build a house there, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
so, Jan, yes,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I believe her name is Teresa Sprague.
Yeah, Sprague,
Sprague.
yeah, we know
Sprague.
her.
Yeah, oh, okay, so I've spoken to her a couple of times already, and I want to retain her to do this. I think John, I don't believe he's spoken to her yet. John, you'll correct me, please, Mr. O'Neill. But yeah, we just didn't, not put the cart before the horse, but there wasn't really time to get that together. And my understanding of the extent of trees, anybody please correct me on this, that would have to be cut for the maximization of solar energy to be the sole supplier of, heating and cooling to the house is determined by the solar panel company. Is that correct?
Yeah, they will weigh in because a lot of us have had that done. They'll tell you which trees. They have all sorts of meters. They'll go around your house and tell you, yeah.
Right. So I don't, obviously we haven't gotten a builder or anything yet, so haven't contacted the solar company. But yeah, I mean, my desire would be to replenish anything that we take down and in fact add some white cedar or some of the beautiful white pines or scrubby pines and, things that are native to the area. They're exquisite. I consider myself to be someone who'll be a steward of the land, not an owner. We're here for less time than the land is here. I've lived the Cape for my whole life. And so, we will do everything that you require and perhaps more.
No, Teresa will be great. She'll be a good resource for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
She does good work.
So do we want to continue this until we have the additional pieces? Do you want a straw poll vote? What is going to help you here? I don't.
I think at this point, well, I was going to ask when the next available meeting would be.
I think it's the first meeting, February 2nd. Is that Groundhog's Day?
Jan, how does that work?
I'll keep my eyes open on site visit.
No, as long as Teresa is able to, do this, and I've spoken to her since basically a few days after signing the contract. Our closing date is February 8th. So.
But this, I think you've heard from us that basically you're doing a good job. We just need a little bit more information. So it shouldn't be
a
factor on buying the property.
Yeah, we won't put up a roadblock at this point.
We won't do that. You're doing a great job.
It's just details that we need.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If the commission would indulge, I'd ask for continuance to the next meeting on the 2nd.
Sure.
Okay.
And by then, Teresa will be on board. We'll be able to provide some additional information, and then we may ask for a straw count at that point if the commission's not ready. But yeah, at that point, that'd be great.
Okay.
Great.
If Teresa's out there working it, have her mark the trees that either need to be topped
Yeah,
or.
I'll reach out to Teresa. I was waiting for tonight to call her.
They may need the solar company to do that. We needed the solar company to tell us which trees, not the landscapers.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
my architect, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Barbara.
no, go ahead.
No, the architect who's become a good friend of mine, Larry, who designed the house, has installed solar panels on other houses he's built. And that's how I learned about it, because right now I have a geothermal system where I live, and he advised me that it's the solar panel company that, as you said, comes out and ascertains what's the minimum amount you can cut, but need to in order to make it viable to have solar power.
Right. So you can still have the house approved, but the solar panels, the cutting of the trees for the panels might be another NOI. It might be another step. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. And at that point, you'll know which ones are the culprits.
and how to mitigate that. And
Right.
because the solar panels, because that's doing so much good for the environment, we're not going to pose, I'm not going to pose personally cutting some trees for your solar panels. It's just going to be what kind of mitigation we might want.
Sure.
Right. Okay, so I move that we continue this until February the 2nd.
Leon, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak? We have an awful lot of people here and not an
That's
awful
true.
lot of hearings left.
Okay, does anybody have any comments on this particular warrant?
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Melissa Lowe. I work at Nassau One's Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary. And Jana, to introduce myself, hi, your plan here again. Great to see a wonderful steward, and your proposed plans with your alternative septic system and the solar panels. A couple of questions, just because I'm new to all this, and I know that the previous site approvals and such have been extended, from the previous site plan and the order of conditions and all. And this is, I guess, a question for the Conservation Commission. Will the MISA review need to be redone for this project? Just because that was done back in at least the copy was done from 2009. So I just wasn't sure if that was a flag that you guys needed to look at.
I can comment on that through the chair, John O'Reilly. We did file with MISA for this application because it's a separate one that's already existing.
Okay.
We did give them the tracking number from that filing. So they have a connection between the two projects, but no, we haven't gotten it yet. We should be getting a letter. And I'm assuming it would be very similar to what is currently been issued, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, that's good to know because we couldn't approve this anyway if we don't have that MISA approval. Okay.
I wasn't going to let you do that.
You're gonna protect us.
And
Greatly
then,
appreciated.
yeah, and just to reiterate to Barbara's point, again, great to see the again solar, but with the mitigation just for any kind of movement of soil into and stabilization of that bank, right? Is important. So and the integrity of the salt marsh below. So
And habitat, we need habitat.
we do absolutely totally need habitat.
Thank
Okay,
you, Melissa. Is there any other comments?
I would like, hi, I'm an abutter and very interested in what's going on with this. And my two concerns have been all along what to do with the ravine, how to get a driveway across that without damaging the environment. And also when I was reading the initial paperwork on the solar, clearing the land for solar power, it just seemed as if trees were going to be leveled, but with no accounting for how much would happen. And so it sounds like that has been addressed.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how the ravine gets resolved, just because that is a very tough part of this project. So anyway, those were my major concerns.
Okay. What would your concern?
I'm sorry.
Concern about the.
Yep. Let John answer.
Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. With regards to the ravine, the current approved project, when it was laid out, disturbed quite a bit of that ravine.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing a similar comment back many years ago. And in this proposal, Jan and her architect, because there's no garage on this property, on this house, could pull that driveway in a little bit, which allowed the wall to come further up the ravine, and the amount of disturbance in the ravine is actually diminished with this application than the application that's approved. We are still doing a stone wall. It's about 3 feet high, I believe. I'm sorry, it's 6 feet high, excuse me. It was 6 feet on the original plan as well. But we did move it up the hill and it's actually outside the buffer zone. So there's more buffer zone being protected than the approved plan that's on record.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
does that speak to your concerns, John?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to continue this until February 2nd. Is there a second for that?
Second, Barbara.
All right, Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leon votes yes. Marty?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And Michael?
I have to recuse because the Wellfleet Conservation Trust is in a butter. So I recuse on that.
Okay, but we have a quorum that has voted. So you're continued until February 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's going to be awesome. Okay, the next is Rosenbaum, 102nd Avenue, map 40, parcel 136, an AOC, replace one floor framing and a portion of the foundation. Is there someone to speak to that? Yes, Mr. Rosenbaum.
Actually, through the chair.
Oh,
John
you're
O'Reilly.
on that too, John. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is your night.
I'm just here to look pretty. John will do the hard work.
Oh, well, I was
He'll
going
do
to say
that.
you're here to bail me out if I get into trouble. So we were here back in the winter of 2021, and you were kind enough to grant us an order of conditions to add a second floor or extend a second floor, add some fill to the north side of the building, and keeping the dwelling basically within the same footprint and just adding a second story. And the builder that was doing the design work at the time evidently made some assumptions. And when Mr. Rosenbaum engaged another builder to complete the design process and actual construct the addition, it was discovered that through the structural engineer that the builder had brought in, that the first floor framing was just not up to par to handle the load from the second floor. So the only way to correct it is to bring the wood frame down to the foundation and then reconstruct the wood frame home. So what we're asking for is permission to do just that. We are asking for an additional change. Again, once the structural engineer looked at the foundation in the northeast corner of the home, which is that small little blip that sticks out a little bit, that is an undersized foundation. It was probably an addition to the foundation that's there now, but that needs to be removed and then reconstructed in the same footprint. And then the rest of the house would be built. We've adjusted the construction protocol to include the additional demo. We've made the necessary changes on the site plan to reflect the removal of the first floor framing. And we also gave you building plans from the new builder. I don't know if the new builder is on the line, but if there are any questions for the project, we'd be happy to answer them.
I think this is very thorough and appreciate the change due to what you found on the ground. I don't have any problems with this.
Anybody else on the commission have any comments? Does this change the limit of work or anything like that? I don't think it would.
No, there's no change in limit of work.
No.
Whatever excavation is needed for the foundation is within the limit of work already, so it doesn't change anything.
Does it need more heavy equipment?
Well, you're still dealing with a skid steer and a mini excavator for the fill that was necessary. So I think the equipment scope is pretty much on par. It's just that the scope of the project changed, and that's what the red flag in Hillary's office happened when it came into her desk.
Sorry.
It doesn't sound like.
No,
there's
it's fine. You're
a
asking the
job.
right question. Yeah.
So you're gonna have a new house on an old foundation. That's, well, it's good to know that you're gonna get something that's well built.
Yes.
We
All
want
right.
to stay put once it's there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, so I would like to move that we approve the AOC for Rosenbaum, 100 Second Avenue, map 40, parcel 136.
Second,
I'll
Barbara.
Second that.
All right, second by Barbara. All right. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Marty,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Michael.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's Form 5, Hillary.
Yep, order conditions.
And, yep. And who's the supervisor for the original? Was that you,
Ooh.
Was that you, Hillary? Or-
Leon was the supervisor.
Okay, so Leon, you're supervising this too. There you go.
Hey, I'll need a new set of paperwork, Chris.
Yep.
For this.
Yep, we issue all new paperwork for it.
All right. Okay, I'm on the hook for that one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Congratulations. Yeah, that's good. The last hearing
Thank you.
is on Ward 825 Chequesset Neck Road, map 19, parcel 106, and RDA to consolidate existing walk-in we got some feedback here. Walk-in section A from 3 walls to 2 walls, on and on. Is there someone to represent this? Is there anyone? Hello? Anyone to present on this hearing?
I think this Tyler is gonna present on it, but his.
Yeah, that's
video
right.
is turned
Can you,
off.
can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you now, Tyler.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and describe this for us, please?
Sure. This is an existing set of landscape tie walls that are getting torn out and replaced with masonry. That's kind of the long and short of it. There's also some brick walkways that are going to be disturbed in that process. So we're going to be picking those up and putting them back down. Is there an echo for all you as well?
Yes, great. So,
Sorry about that. Don't know what to do about that. Can I share my screen?
yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, so this was submitted last week, but apparently didn't make it to you guys.
No, I think they have it.
We have it now. We have it now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Again, I apologize for the echo here. But it's being replaced in the same place. It's about 300 square feet between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer that was, disturbed in the existing and will also be obviously disturbed when we replace it. We'll be taking, measures to make sure the job site's clean throughout the job and the environment's not impacted.
Leon, can I ask a question?
Certainly, Michael, go ahead.
So when you have the 100-foot line, that purple line, what do you think you're measuring from?
This was on an existing, an earlier site plan. So it's just copied in the exact same place.
Well, but can you point out the top of the coastal bank, which is where you're supposed to start measuring?
Okay, can you see my mouse?
Yes, I see your mouse.
Yeah.
So
That's not
this-
the top of the coastal bank. That's the bottom of the coastal bank.
Yeah, you're right.
Got it.
The top of the coastal bank is right up against, is right there. So
Okay.
100 foot is not, that's not 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank.
You're on the resource.
You're actually working in the resource in part of it. And so it's within the 50 at the very most generous understanding of the work. I have no problems with with replacing it for safety and so on. But if you can stop sharing your screen for a moment.
Okay. It's my
you do
first
that?
time on Zoom.
Yeah, at the top, there's a thing that says
Okay,
stop sharing.
got it. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
so there's another major issue that you haven't talked about. There are 3 major trees here that have been topped without permission and are dead right in the on the coastal bank. Does the owner have any explanation for that, or any sort of program of mitigation or replacement or dealing with this violation?
I wasn't aware of that, so I can't speak to that, but I will get in touch with them and get back to you as soon as possible.
Because I have no problem with what you're proposing in terms of the replacement of the bricks and so on, and the brought wood. But I cannot vote for this when you've got this major violation, which is unaddressed and has clearly been there for a couple of years. And I mean, there's a fine of, what's it, $200 a day for each
Yes.
violation for each day that it was gone. So if we did a real literal counting, you're talking about a large fine. So until the owner is able to come up with these replacements, that's no problem, even though it's in the resource and part of it, as far as I'm concerned. But it's that other violation which is completely unaddressed that I have a real issue with.
I agree with Michael. The area that they want to change is already disturbed. It has been for many, many years. But there has been a blatant violation that needs to be addressed. So that doesn't happen again. And so there's some mitigation.
Right. Hillary, can we deal with that as a separate issue?
Yeah,
from
I
this?
just want to pull up the assessor's database and see when Ward took ownership here, because I know some of these properties.
Well, the
Yeah.
map that we have for Charles Ward and Dinah Rome is dated 1997.
That's right.
So they've had the property since at least 1997.
So Matt and Mary took ownership in 2012. So
Right.
got it. Okay. So we can take the tree cutting as an enforcement order, or Tyler could go back to his client. And Tyler, I don't know, do you just do stonework? Do you do landscaping? What's your specialty here? Could you talk to the wards about the importance of leaving vegetation on the site and coming up with a replanting plan or some type of?
Yeah, that would be
planting?
fine. We're not going to start this until it gets a little bit warmer anyway. So if you'd like to continue us to February 2nd.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because you have another project before us, I think, coming back on February 2nd for the Lieutenant Island Road project. So maybe we could hear both of those on the same night, and you could talk to your client and get back to us.
Got it. Any other thing I should?
Well, you should probably make sure that the map that you're submitting is accurate in terms of where the 50 and the 100 foot are.
Got it. Yeah, the peak is essentially right at the limit of work.
Exactly. And that's where you start measuring.
Right. So we're at the 0 foot line.
Right.
But we are on the other side of the bank. We're not, the top of the bank is uphill of the top wall that we are replacing.
That's good.
Yes, you're not on the coastal bank. You're behind the coastal bank, and that's fine.
Okay. All right, we'll come up with a plan with the trees. And so the Lieutenant Island one is not on this today?
No.
No.
Okay.
All right, I move that we continue Ward 825 Chequesset Neck Road, map 19, parcel 106 to February 2nd.
Second.
All right.
Let
Benjamin,
Marty
do you
second
vote?
it, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes. Marty,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Michael.
Yes.
Okay. So we all have our little marching plans for that.
I'll be away in February, but if you need me to at a business meeting or for a quorum on something, then you need to send me information. If you have a quorum, then let me enjoy my vacation.
Well, I think for Kleeman, Since I have to be out.
Duly noted, Barbara.
Okay.
for
Hey,
cleanup-
Hillary,
Yes.
Yeah.
this is Tim Thompson from 5 Holbrook. I was told to come to tonight's meeting, that I was continued from December 15th. I heard people say that that was the last matter. Are you guys not expecting me tonight?
No, we're gonna have you at our next meeting as well. Sorry about that.
February 2nd?
February 2nd, please.
Well, you know what? It was very informative and educational, and I'm glad I got to audit. So
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
Maybe you want to
Sorry
be
about
on, maybe you want to be on the commission one of
Yeah,
these
next
days.
time you can do this. And I'll say it.
Well, at least I got a taste of it, so I can make an informed decision
Okay.
about being on the commission in the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Bye. No problem.
All right. Is there any other-
Tyler,
Yes.
please get the paperwork to the office next Wednesday, because I put the packages together on Fridays.
Got it. Right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Are there any other issues from the commissioners that we'd like to discuss before we go?
Well,
Before we
everyone
decide if
should
we're gonna let Barbara have a vacation.
Everyone should take a walk between the Gut and Duck Harbor and look at a particular house there and look at what the solution has caused in terms of environmental issues.
Yeah.
I just suggest that. And then the house north of that, the stairways are now suspended in the air because of all the sand that's been lost. And I don't know what we do about that. So that whole area has really been subject to a lot of erosion and coastal damage this year. And everyone should just take a look. Just
Oh, good idea. Is that the stairway that comes to the cut?
yes, it's
Yeah,
now
okay.
suspended in the air.
Oh,
Yep.
well, that's handy.
Yeah.
Barbara,
Great
could you
for-
repeat the
Great for hang
location?
gliding, you know, you can just launch right off your.
Yes, I don't know the address. It's north of 1440 Chickasset Neck Road. It's the
Mhm.
next stairway north of that.
Yeah.
The one John
Okay.
Cumbler asks about, or
Oh, okay, okay. I'm
Yeah, I don't know
familiar.
the name or the address, but
Okay.
everyone
the
should,
other thing
Got it.
about the Duck Harbor overwash, at our most recent Herring River meeting, we were given a presentation by an intern for the seashore, and it was really, really great. So I've asked if they could come before you and give you the same presentation, because it was really great. So
Great.
I'm waiting to hear back, but it's very interesting.
Was
yeah,
that the one that was done on the state of the harbor?
no,
No,
that
is
was
a new one.
Gabby, the mosquito control. This is something else. This is probably vegetation management or,
no, it was just about the overwash and the
Overwash.
incidences and what's happening out there and what to expect to happen and where the inlet's moving, and
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it it was done on Story Map. It was great. So hopefully she'll come and talk to you guys.
Great.
Okay. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second, Michael.
Okay.
Don't all jump up. Okay, Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. How about you, Marty?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
We are adjourned. Please turn off the recordings. That's some interesting.